Okay, here we are. We have started. Good afternoon, session 4. We are beginning now formally. I am Riva Lava. I'm assistant professor in Athens at the National Technical University of Athens. I am presently in the small village of Azolo, very close to Verona. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm on my way to Porto. I couldn't be more transient than today. Happy to receive you. I will say a couple of words for all of us so that we introduce each other in this session. I will start as I have my CVs together. I will introduce Iviana Fabrio first. She has graduated industrial design in the School of Design and the Faculty of Architecture in Zagreb. And she has pursued her master education at the Design Academy in Eindhoven. This is in the Netherlands. Ivana started teaching at the School of Design in Zagreb in the year 2003. And her main field of interest is design research and anthropology with the focus on participatory methods with social design practice. Today, we will hear a couple of words on a larger speech, which is coming later after this session, on participative methods in social design, with an emphasis on a different case study, which she will present in the larger speech after our session. Eva Andronikidou, you all see Eva. She's with us today. She's a PhD candidate in Athens at the Architecture School of the National Technical University of Athens, and she studies fine arts at the same time. She has studied architecture, landscape architecture, and acting. And as you see, she's a seeking spirit, and she will give us a couple of talking points to research together and discuss the way people reuse abandoned or simply not occupied spaces, urban spaces mostly, and reflecting on the question, how could architects really learn by social processes and use them to achieve specific goals? I'm moving on to Yuakim Moreno. Yuakim has also a piece of paper behind him in the background. Maybe you can see it, maybe you cannot. It speaks more than I do. Yuakim Moreno is a Portuguese architect. He graduated at the School of Architecture in Porto. He holds a master's from Barcelona and a PhD from Princeton. He has taught previously at the Columbia University, at the Syracuse University, Princeton, Minho University, Autonomous University of Lisbon, ISCTE and Architectural Association in London, my goodness. Currently he teaches at FAUP in Porto. And he will make a couple of, he will give us a couple of triggers on distance learning and revolutionary schools during anti-colonial wars, and inclusion and remedial media-based distance education, its architecture and the kind of perspective and community it organizes. And I'm moving on to the small screen with two people. We only see Renee though. Did Christina disappear again on us?
No, sorry, I just joined you, I guess. Oh, in the new window.
With a new window. Okay, so we have a new window. Excellent. So Christina Kareva or Kareva?
Actually, Tsareva, like the Tsar, the
Tsareva,
Russian
like
emperor.
A Tsar. Okay.
Whatever,
she holds
yes.
a PhD
Feel free.
And a master's degree, and so does Renee. And they are associated professors in Zagreb at the School of Architecture. They are the authors of the City Acupuncture Initiative, active since 2009, primarily through interdisciplinary and participative workshops. It's very interesting that you coined this term, because I use this term and I thought about it, because obviously not. So I'm up there to get your book as soon as possible. And they will give us a couple of trigger points, so to say, on interdisciplinarity and spaces that support it or participation of children. I'm just making a very small and concise introduction here. I would like you to begin in that order, I mean, first Ivana, then Eva, then Yuakim, and then Christina and Renee. I would like you to make your short 3-minute introduction. I also have prepared something, and then we can begin with our discussion. So, Ivana, would you like to share your screen first?
Yes, I was just about to ask you.
Do you all have 3-minute trigger introductions? Because otherwise there's no time to discuss anything.
Yes. Let me just for a moment. You see my screen already?
Yeah, we do.
Do you see PowerPoint opening right now? Do you see my PowerPoint?
A list of PowerPoints.
No, then it's now I'll stop sharing. Wait for a moment. I'll do it again. Because when I press share screen, for some reason I don't see the window.
You have to select the document.
Yeah. I found it.
Yeah.
Do you see it now?
Yeah, we can. Sure.
Okay, I'll just try to make it full screen. Do you see it now full screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So I'll try to make it short because I also have this keynote that will discuss it much broader, and the most important project that I want to talk about is the one that will be presented in the keynote. It's the bars are not barriers. So I chose a different one, but the point is I'm a little bit off topic here because I come from the field of design, but Mia thought it would be nice to also share the experience of the methods and education journey that we do here at the School of Design. So what I do is I teach at major design courses, but I also lead the social design, which most people are always surprised what it is all about, because design is always social. So it's a kind of a practical journey that takes people, including managers and entrepreneurs, to create useful, usable, and meaningful ventures, services, and products that combines resources efficiently towards achieving desired outcomes and impacts on society in ways that are always open to dialogue. So it's a very broad definition. What for me is always important to know that it's not a discipline in itself, like the visual communication, industrial design, and so forth. It's inherently pragmatic, result-driven, humble, and ambitious, fundamentally optimistic and forward-looking, but it can tackle any problem within any outcome that comes out as the most practical and the best solution. Today, I only want to shortly present Design for Social Changes, a project that was a collaboration between Center for Peace Studies. This is an intro slide, which for me is important because it includes the quote, stories help children to sleep, but also adults to wake up, because the method that we used there was the one that came out from the research that when you tackle the issues such as prejudice, stereotypes, and so forth, in terms of creating opinions about racism, about gender, and so on, that it's very important to tackle these issues in a very early age. So therefore, the outcome is mostly visual in this case. So the collaborators were Center for Peace Studies, and 3 girls that were working with me, and of course their students on the anti-racism, racism, xenophobia, and ethnic exclusivity programs, as well as the program area of advocating the introduction of civic and peace education within Croatian education system. We were very well aware that these things will go very slowly to come out in the educational system. So we did initiatives on our own in collaboration with different stakeholders, such as kindergartens, different platforms, NGOs, and so on. So we were tackling prejudices against religious, ethnic.
Okay, Ivana, I think the point is not so much to give us the whole scope, because we will obviously watch your lecture,
it's going to the outcomes.
To give us the trigger, and I think you did this, which is the social design aspect, right? You can take it out of school and into the world and into society and create the foundation, right?
Yeah, what we did, we created the stories that we also included the stakeholders, in this case, the immigrant and asylum seekers, with us to create something that was, in the end, publicly presented, especially in the workshops and kindergarten places, where we brought with us also the asylum seekers. The point was to establish the connection between different stakeholders and to introduce these problems, these issues in the early age of our citizens. So these are two projects that we made. This is the other one that was also paraphrasing the most important fairy tale in Croatia, which is called Hedgehog's House, which we translated in what was important for us. So yeah, this is what was also the end. So not the product in itself, but the product and the whole system that goes along with it. And
extremely interesting and extremely courageous. And I'm really curious to hear the big picture of that. Yeah. I propose we move on to Eva Andronikidou, who wants to present some of her own ideas on our topic, which I forgot to mention. Our topic, as you all know, is co-creating and connecting in education, but also larger society. So Eva, would you like to tell us a couple of things, or do you have a short presentation to share with us?
I will not, I don't have something to share of images, because what I will talk about is mostly experiential. During my student life, that has been, and my work, my professional life, that has been divided in many countries and cities, I realized that I found myself very often in squads, in occupied spaces that really helped me feel integrated, mostly as a student in various cities. So, for example, in Athens, I did my final project at the architecture school in an occupied place in the university, where as the students would organize our spaces according to our needs, to everybody's needs. So it would be something like a very specific small society. Afterwards, also in last week, I was with some students of fine arts from Germany, and they all told me that they had heard that the squads, there were many squads in Athens. I didn't really know anything more apart from this. I only knew about the squads where that the young people have organized in order to give to create homes for the refugees. After that, I've lived in France, where I realized that squads were mostly places with a political background, and in Barcelona, where there was a more cultural background in all that. You could practice some art, interchange knowledge and stuff like this. And then in Portugal, there is this very interesting concept of the República, which is like a residence of students that is not an occupied place, but it has a social and political background, and it's like very open to the neighborhood with many activities. So after that, I started thinking about what makes really the people have a special tendency on the way they occupy the spaces in a city. Also, I realized that students love to occupy spaces, or young people, but in universities, really, this is a kind of a taboo. Or in architectural planning, we don't really give a lot of space to that, because it's something like, it has like an ethical significance of being something bad or not good, because it's something that we connect to the marginalized people. So after that, I started thinking of the urban planning in the beginning of the 19th century, in the Industrial Revolution, when in reality, in some of these cities, there was a very specific planning of the architects about the social and political way the city would function. For example,
Eva, would you like to give us a conclusion? Because if we don't stick to our 3 minutes, we will not have a discussion.
Sorry. So
we will not be together in this. Yeah.
So concluding to all that, I would like to see how all these ways of spontaneous reaction in the city of mainly young people could be used and seen as proofs of needs that could affect the design, and how could we teach to young architects to incorporate all these spontaneous moves in their planning.
To adopt this, the way we design and the way we teach. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I'll skip over to Yuakim.
Hi.
Guys, we have time to discuss everything. Just don't say it all now, okay? I mean, 3 minutes is sort of stupid, but otherwise we'll really will not have time to make a point diagonally.
3 minutes and counting. If
Okay,
I may
I'm
say,
counting.
I put the paper behind me that says breaking walls, giving voice. Those are two extraordinary ideas that I discovered studying the beginning of the English Open University, studying more particularly how they included modern architecture into their courses. No? I did some research. Breaking walls was pretty amazing. It was the first time that most common people, humble people, could go to college. So basically, people that were stuck in many ways in life, stuck in their place, stuck in their social range, stuck in their gender inequalities, stuck in their social, political, or criminal situation, that couldn't move, that have a ceiling, something blocking, around themselves, they could break those walls and study. It was incredible for women, for instance, just working class women. And that was so incredible that was actually seen as a betrayal. Women needed men's, husband's authorization to
like
study.
Afghanistan,
and
not even worse.
Yeah, it was England in the 70s.
Yeah.
And actually, some of them were forbidden. Some of them studied heathen. But the incredible thing is that the Open University transgressed borders, break up walls. They would receive at home everything they needed to study. They would be reorganized in different collectives, different classrooms of solitudes, if you want. Everybody somehow dancing to the radio or learning to the radio or television. And it was the first time that the first university that accepted inmates. So even the walls of jails.
This ties into Ivana's topics as well.
So
you are speaking about the education of Open University.
Yeah, that particular one, how the heck it broke walls. Two, how it gave voice. The curious is that the moment architecture get inside the general audience living rooms, most students actually understood that TV was talking about their own living conditions. And some courses actually required or asked the students to do project reports on their own living conditions and structured a lot of participation strategies. And for some instances, the only attendable documentation you will have of the demolition of Quarry Hill, which was a very, very famous piece of social housing from the 30s, is from these course reports. They were, the students were being given voice to speak about the world surrounding them, to participate in the debates. School was emancipatory because it was listening, not just because it was breaking walls, but because it was listening to people. So
very
somehow
nicely said.
Architecture was in public in a very, very different way. And that was I abused the 3 minutes.
Very, very, very nice point. I mean, we'll discuss this more. Who wants now, Christina or Renee? What is the...
No, however you feel. Oh, Renee, do you want to go first? Just turn on your mic. Turn on your mic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here. So shortly, we will present our joint initiative, City Acupuncture, in our presentation. So I won't speak much about that. I wanted to just introduce one of our activities that is related to integral planning that I mentioned. Maybe I can share my screen shortly. Let me see.
So this is part of the city of acupuncture.
Not actually, this is more something that city acupuncture fits in, let's say.
Okay, yes, okay.
Okay. Do you see a presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. So start. Sorry. So this is just okay. Quad helix principle that everybody should be involved, from professional sector, government sector, business sector, and civil society in any innovative or planning process. Thinking of this, interdisciplinarity comes mostly from the academic sector, and participation in any process goes from civil society sector. In terms of top-down and bottom-up, we can say that mostly government and academia are looking top-down, and civil sector and business sector, they're looking bottom-up in any process. And if you want to have integral process, is it innovative process, planning process, we should manage all four sectors to be involved somehow. But each of these sectors has its own problems, interests, shortcomings in their thinking and approach, and it should be somehow balanced. So we need a moderator to cover this. Somehow our initiative, acupuncture, always try to moderate these processes in workshops to have it all go in a togetherness approach. But the question is always, what is the criteria to say what is this public interest between all the four sectors? It always goes to this, that sustainable development, that you need economy, society, and environmental challenges to be sustainable. And this is the criteria that you can always use in this process. Is something in the public interest or not? If it's in environmental and societal and economic interest in general, then it is a good criteria. Some projects that were done in this sense is strategic planning of some spaces and islands that could be done in this way. So one project was related to island Bishova, that is facing changes from traditional to mass tourism to some new forms of tourism.
So you keep moving this model, right? According to...
Yes, this is the
place
for this model. And somehow on the island, what should be done is somehow to support the traditional way of living and try to regulate sustainably the tourism, mass tourism, and this part, and to introduce carefully with a sense of sustainability some new models like remote working, residence based being on the island, artistic workshops, and so on. So to manage this process, we need what we said, like interdisciplinary group. This is an expert group that was formed for this, to evaluate this process, and also to involve a participative part that local community and the initiatives, business, government are included in the process to see which scenarios are sustainable on which way and so on. So just shortly about this, I leave now.
Very interesting model. Yes, very interesting way to implement. Okay, thank you so much, Renee. Should we move to Christina and then we can make all points on what we have seen and heard?
Yes, why not? If you are up to, I will hopefully not be longer than 3 minutes. It's hard to say anything meaningful in 3 minutes. But
don't say that. Don't say that.
Okay, maybe it's hard for me. So I will just stick to one point since...
No, you don't have to develop a whole field of knowledge. It's just we sort of challenge each other. You know, we throw thoughts into the discussion so that we can have the discussion. That's the point.
So my challenge will be children, because through my so far experience in interdisciplinary, participatory workshops and everything, I found out that the children are very nicely LACMUS group to work with, because they are easily transfer their thoughts into whatever you want. They're not, they're relaxed with everything. And I will just quickly share my screen to show you some pictures of our city acupuncture work that René and me did with children. This is like a chalk a workshop, for example, and out of this drawings came out something designed like this. And I would also like to share something that is here. No, it's here. No, it's here. This is also one of my works that I did, this architectural textbook for inquisitive children. So if you would like to check it, it's open for public. It's in English, and it can tackle some interest of how to involve children in understanding our built environment, which I think it's a fundamental thing to do in order to make them capable of being participating in addressing it, for participating in whatever kind of participation is needed for addressing these issues of built environment. So feel free to check our webpage of our faculty, and there you can find this. I can also send it by link.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting. And I will come back to you with questions I have already noted. Actually, if you allow me, I would also like to give a short 3-minute presentation. You know that I have thought about women. At this point in our university in Athens, we are just beginning with the commission or the committee for gender equality. Let me see if I can share. I'll try to share my screen, and I'll go through 4 slides if that's okay. Because discussing the issue of shared education, shared processes, inclusion, belonging, and so on. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let me take this a bit further. Okay, what about women? I mean, I just have 4 points to make, and we can see how they tie in our discussion. Oops. You can see, right? Why doesn't that move?
Yes, we can see the first slide.
Okay.
First slide. Yeah.
Okay, the first one, I'm sure you all have heard about these glass ceilings there are in every endeavors and walks of life. Usually we take it off statistics, and what is still happening at this point is that we have a lot of women, girls studying, taking their degrees in architecture, getting at places where they have all it takes to have a career. But they never really hit this glass ceiling. They remain, they never achieve upper management levels or high politics or whatever. This is the one point I would like to bring into the discussion. And why is that happening? And how could women really be part of the game? The second one has to do with studio culture. We all have experienced studio culture more or less in our time we studied. And studio culture is something that then expands into professional life. It's the thing where you have a competition we were listening to before, with 5 days and nights of fever and deadlines. And it seems like that 24/7 is something not made for women who may wish to become mothers, or who may wish to or have to be caretakers. And I'm throwing in Perez's question. There is no such thing as a woman who doesn't work. There is only a woman who isn't paid for her work, because when women cannot do the studio culture, usually they do work, but they are not paid for it. Third point here, third trigger is modeler is a man. The female body remains unmeasured, except for the world of fashion and dieting at this point. That's the mainstream. We have already started to think of a kind of Neufeld book for women, and that research should really include the other half of the world as well, if we're serious about our world these days. And the last point I really was tempted to make, I didn't, and I did want to, I'm happy I am making the point, is that, okay, we're not talking the Pritzker Prize that Zaha Hadid or that these two great architects out of Ireland received. I'm talking when it's a couple, when it's a man and a woman. It has been the case at least 2 times, the one with Denise Scott Brown and the other one with the wife of Wang Shu. They didn't equally receive the award and the credit. And these are my points. I have gotten into these thoughts, I have to admit, very late in life. I always thought one has to work very hard, you know, and go further and not think about it. But I lately realized that there is no way to talk about participation without thinking of place of women in data and in everything else. Okay, these were my points. What I would propose for now, and I'm keeping notes for the wrap up, we have at least 6 topics and thoughts. What I would propose is that you raise your hands and come into the talk, you know, just come with your impulse and I'll keep notes from whatever we have seen. I mean, if you don't feel like beginning, I don't see any hand up. I have some questions from some of your presentations. I mean, I would like to, for example, ask Ivana and Eva, because they both, part of their presentations had to do with what we could also call heterotopias. I mean, with people who are either marginalized or not mainstream or not within the basic framework today. How can we really adopt that when we design? How can we really establish practices? This is one question. Another question I have is to Christina. How are children better when we work with children in participatory? Because it's really triggered my curiosity. And I also have a question for Yuakim. Okay, the open school is great the way you described it, but is it there today? I mean, can we speak about today? How could we speak about today and this kind of educational framework? These are my questions. Take it from there. Whoever wants to speak, raise your hands. We have the yellow hand, right? So I can moderate, otherwise it's difficult.
I have raised my hand. Maybe you don't have me on your screens.
I have you. I mean, you know what I mean? The yellow hand in reaction.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. If you raise your hand, go
I'm
ahead.
not working on Zoom. We're using other platforms, so
you are right. You are right. I'm sick of it too. Okay, so you raised the real hand.
Yeah, let's raise the real
and Yuakim.
hand.
Okay, Yuakim is second. Ivana is first. Then we have.
Actually, I wanted to suggest maybe because most of the projects that I showed today are also dealing with children. Maybe Christina and I can maybe answer together, because what I realized through these different collaborations with different stakeholders, mainly NGOs, that have this, you know, layered advocacy issues that they are working on. One is with the politics, with administration, with legislative, and so on. And when design comes in, it comes in as a catalyst for something that can be used, what I said in the presentation in the beginning, with an early stage stereotypes development. That's why we start working with children, because we are also acknowledging the fact that, you know, years are not terms in which things change in Croatia. It needs generations to start changing the mindset and therefore the policy and all other aspects. So that's why we work with children. What we can do is we can, help them be more open-minded and share the experience between each one of them in terms of appreciating and accepting what is different in all terms. That's what I wanted to only.
So they are way ahead of us as far as stereotypes are concerned.
Yes, it's also a point of how you measure the success. It's not a financial turnover that comes out, as in different kinds of products that we do. Here, the success comes after maybe a generation or 2 or 20 years when these people become, active participants in society.
I think, Ivana, this is the case with education anyway. It takes a generation or 2 to really, really create a way.
At least,
Does Christina want to add something? Because
yes, I would. I would
then
like
we'll move to Yuakim.
Yes, sorry, Yuakim, but this is somehow the subject is related to what I wanted also to say and what was actually Riva's question for me. So the thing is, I totally agree with Ivana. That's the thing. We have to educate somebody in order to understand. If he understands that, he can participate. If the participation is made without understanding, then it's just playing whatever, and it doesn't have a real impact. This is one importance, just to educate children. The other point that I wanted to say is that children are so easily approachable. They want to talk. They don't have problems in saying what they like or dislike. They don't think that somebody will judge them for their thoughts. And that's what we use in our participation with when we come to a city quarter, and then it's the easiest is to reach the children and to do something with them. And what we found out is that their parents, grandparents, neighbors, or whatever, start listening because children are there. Of course, somebody will, just because children are there, said, I don't want to participate, but those are few. Generally, people accept children, they cherish them to be better. And in that way, if the children are involved, then we are opening our eyes, what is happening there. So it's like the way to also address older people and also to get really fresh ideas and to get crazy ideas. They're so very enthusiastic when they want to present something. Of course, it's too much, but sometimes you have to think really big in order to achieve one small step.
Thank you, Christina. So what you're basically saying is children are great ambassadors.
Yes, for everything, both for art and for socializing and
agency. Thank you. Should we move? Yuakim, do you still want to talk to us?
Yeah.
Lower
absolutely.
your hand.
Absolutely. It's just I can raise my hand and it's way more analogical, so it's okay. Evidently, most of my previous work was concentrated in one particular socio-technical moment when media-based education was broadcast in public antenna. That lasted very few years until there was video recording and the Open University went to, next to infomercials at 2 a.m. and disappeared. It was no longer in public. Curiously enough, what I've been doing recently, and that maybe it makes some sense, I noticed that with the pandemic, who was somehow left to fend themselves in educational terms. This is happening in Portugal with a very precise situation. It was teenagers. In Portugal, right after people went to school, we noticed the exclusion of the avant-garde technology. We were so surprised that not every child had a computer. So what has reach, what everybody has? Obsolete crap, television. Television has reach. It's obsolete, means it reaches everywhere. So immediately there was public TV doing television education. Who was left
during
out?
During the pandemic?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't
Who
know.
was left out?
Interesting.
Teenagers. No, the only part of human life that didn't exist before World War II, no, that great commercial invention, adolescence. No, let's set up between being children and adults. We decided collectively that there was a time to, grow up for serious, not grow up in autonomy. No, they were declared autonomous, and there was no TV for secondary education from 10th to 12th degree. They had to fend for themselves, to reorganize all those networks. And those are the thing that I'm trying to work now, actually, is definitely adolescence. And how? Because they are reorganizing most of these relations.
Yes,
They
but
have...
one thing I don't understand, adolescents got the benefit from TV education or
no?
no?
They didn't.
They didn't.
No.
Because
They were considered autonomous. No, adolescence is wonderful as a category because it has autonomy without representation. You are grown up to be left abandoned. You're not grown up enough to vote.
So what would you propose? What is the direction you could trace?
Me, in my own work, I'm trying to pay attention to them, to find a way to listen to teenagers. Because for most other things, we trust teenagers. They make the best music, they make the best pop culture, but we still tell them what to do, how they should behave. We still build horrible classrooms for them. We still patronize them. We still can't bring them to the table because they are not children, so they don't play, and they are not adults, so they don't vote. So we have this incredible opportunity that we invented collectively, and we waste it. That's why I'm really figuring out what exactly means an open education for adolescents. It's currently
so you really say that its first priority is to bring adolescent populations back to the game.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
They are lost in social media, and it would be wonderful to have them in public media or public space. So it's fun.
Yes.
It's and especially because adolescents have very different patterns of gender relations, of ethnic relations. No, I mean, most teenagers that I know, they don't see the world in any binary way. They are all fairly intersectional. They are fairly decent human beings, and we are not paying too much attention. So I think there is some hope there.
My son would think you're great.
Well,
who would like to jump in?
My daughter thinks I'm unbearable and embarrassing,
Really?
just I'm not your subject, idiot. So it's the perfect subject case, yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Who would like to jump in? Or would you like me to read aloud more questions we have in our session in case that's stimulating, although I think we had a lot of things. I mean, if you look at our session, we do discuss particular challenges in culture, migration, inclusion, interaction. We do wonder how architectural or urban interventions can help overcoming this. This is why I had this first question, not only about children, but also about heterotopia, so to say, to Ivana and to Eva. And how does a meeting of cultures carry a new architectural expression? Maybe these pockets Eva is talking about, these city pockets or these undefined spaces which are claimed in a spontaneous way are ways to discuss these issues, but I really can't see how it can become part of a formal education. I mean,
can I just add one thing? Actually, I forget the big trigger, because doing all this research, I thought, what about secondary education in emergency situations? No? Because, and I just picked the phone, and I have a dear friend that works for the United Nations in all those, and she told me, oh, well, you know what? There isn't. In a lot of refugee camps, emergency situations, dislocated people, the big problem is that teenagers have nothing to do because they have elementary schools, but that's it. You know, emergencies means you are provided with education, but not with future. It's a horrible form of betrayal. And that was one of the triggers of the question. Shit, that is not fair at all. No?
I see
That's
an analog hand has raised. I think Eva has raised her analog hand.
Thank you, Joakim, for saying that, because the truth is, I have worked also in informal education with refugee children and youngsters. In the beginning, in a very spontaneous way, because a friend in a refugee house that was made in an emergency solution in I think it was the 2015. So there I had to find ways to try to help these youngsters and children. The truth is that the teenagers were the most difficult ones, but when the time was passing, it was getting easier and easier. And after they would trust you, after they had trusted you, it was a lot easier and you could connect more. In reality, I find that working in both informal and informal education, I think there are things from, in reality, I think there is no recipe, but I think there are practices that one can see as starting points to for more specific planning. In non-formal education, we use more experiential ways, more like direct ways to implement ourselves. In formal education, it's very different. But I believe that also in architecture, if we, because education in reality prepares us to be able to do something. That's the main purpose. So if we open a little bit our eyes and our antennas to detect details and information by how people spontaneously move and what they try to do, maybe we can try to implement this information in the design, or we can educate people to really be able to see the important information, even in the information that doesn't seem so important. I don't know if if I explain it very well, but sometimes something that happens shows us a lot more than a book or a formal something that we learn at university. Just reflecting on what happens and seeing really what happens. That's what I refer to.
Is there any hand up? I don't see. No. Well, it seems like we just started to talk, and I see nobody really cares about women around here, so I'm just going to forget about that.
Maybe it's too many of us.
Huh?
Maybe it's too many of us here.
No, but the trick is you don't have to be a woman to care about women.
Yeah.
This is always the confusing part. You know, it's not the gender. It's not splitting things up. It's rather getting them together.
Yep.
I have come to believe. I have a question for Rene. I mean, who seems to have presented a very elaborate model, actually, the Helix model with every possible stake involved and the dynamics coming with it. I don't know how to formulate it exactly, because when we speak about participation, you know, it's trendy, everybody likes it, it's there, it's important. We all, I think, in one way or another, try to be more participatory and open and democratic and enriching. But the question I have is, and looking at your so carefully built model, you know, if we take it into education, do you think it could open up a path?
You mean as educating students about that? Or this is one thing that Christina and I will speak also in our presentation. But we have introduced participative design or participative design of space as a subject in faculty architecture curriculum. For 4 years, we work now with students with some small and simple tasks. We give them also the theoretical overview of participation and quadratics methods and so on. But we give them a really simple task where they can practice this participative approach. It is usually some space where they need to speak with a lot of participants or interested subjects into the space, and create a small simple product that reflects in the best way they can the needs of users of space, and somehow try to relate to what they heard from them. So sometimes it's not aiming on a really sophisticated design or space arrangement or some architectural expression. It's more how to transfer what you heard from the participation process, and to how to transfer it as much as efficient as possible into design. It's not always just the need. I need this or I need that, but also the energy and the feeling that these people present to them in this process. So I think we have a good experience with that.
Interesting. Yeah. I find it very difficult to hit the right dynamics in a participatory process, because I'm also very interested, and you know, to make it really possible that it moves forward.
Yes, what you said, it is really now being really popular to say, and the posh word, participation and everything. But the thing is not as simple as people think. Christina, we were dealing with participative workshops for 10 years, and it's not a straightforward process. Depending of the task of the community or participants that you want to involve, for each time we need to design the process by itself. It is not always what you hear, you have to obey it and apply it. There is a lot of noise, let's say, in the participative discussions, and there is a need for a great experience to recognize the noise between the real good participative information that you need to implement. And this moderation is something, it's more like something you learn by doing somehow.
Yeah.
But there are also some principles how to see what is really important as information, what is not, what is noise, and so on.
And just as we started to speak, we have 1 more minute remaining. So
Maybe talk about women.
and we never talked about women, Ivana. What is this? I mean, what is this? Is it wrong to be my mother and an architect, you know, to breastfeed a baby and then having to finish a project, you know? Anyway, it's a big
Maybe I can say that at Faculty of Architecture, Christina can confirm, in last 15 years, the percentage of women enrolling and being accepted has been completely increased from probably 50% to, I don't know, Christina, what's the number now? But
I think maybe one third of all
Interior design is even more than, it's like 90% are women, but still at executive positions.
That's what
no
we're
women.
talking about.
No,
The beginning is easy, but finally.
I think in architecture is as well.
Yes, of course. These are the hard statistics, the magic numbers. I mean, yeah. Anyway, I think it's healthy to discuss.
I put it there, you know, my position, giving voice. No, it's not just talking about this, giving voice to women, not just talking about them. So it's on the wall. So you don't pretend.
I'll make a screenshot.
It's there from the beginning.
True. Anyway, it's a big story. And I think, you know, just when we start to discuss things, I think it also has to do with education. But yeah, our time is through. I don't know if they will stop us or not, but I would like to say that I made notes from all of your points, even if they sounded very all over the place and different in the beginning. What I'm hearing is that we really need to sit down and discuss things again amongst us. We human beings, we members of a society, we need to reestablish bridges of trust and get open again, and possibly learn the lessons of the pandemic, you know, and whatever that brought to the surface, which is still an ongoing process. It's not over. I have also made the notes about children, which were, it's interesting that I have the notes about children and then I have the notes about adolescents. So I have some kind of genealogy going here, you know, and then we have education and secondary and tertiary education. And of course, not women were not discussed. So I will try my best to also like the point of getting adolescents off the social media and bringing them into the public space. And the point Eva made that we need not so much recipes, but practices, and practices may really open the path to a new way of educating. Yeah. Participatory, the points you made, Renee. I think I have it all here. I just have to organize a little bit and wrap it up and tell it in our main session. Oops.
For the sake of being properly in Asolo,
yeah,
and Asolo is where Scarpa lived while he was making the Brion Vega cemetery and the
I'll go tomorrow morning to the
Gypsotech.
cemetery, Joachim, tomorrow morning. I would go now as we speak, but we have the New European Bauhaus going.
Well, leave these, wrap it up and go and check the Gypsotech.
Gypsotech.
The Canovian Gypsotech.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And ask them to show you the broken casts from the bombings of World War I. They won't show you, but at least they know that some people know that they exist. They are still broken.
I never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the tip. Wow.
There's a guy in Azulo that knows about them.
Do you want to tell me his name over YouTube?
Well,
No.
Manliu Brusatin. No, the historian, he lives in Azulo.
I wanted to go to Villa Rotonda, but it's closed today. On my way. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how you can see architecture again.
Yep. When are you coming west?
West
Yes.
on Monday, November
Yeah, okay.
1st. If
Good.
I'm lucky to get a ticket on time. Yes.
Good.
I will look you up. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Goodbye, everyone. Nice meeting you all.
Very nice meeting you. You were a very nice group. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And
See you later.
soon. Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.